When it comes to the word paranormal, images of ghosts and haunted houses may come to mind. However, when it comes to the word occult, that may bring up many different kinds of images. Symbols of triangles and stars enclosed within circles, hooded figures creepily chanting foreign words, devil worship, etc. It's the word cult that brings up those images. But occult simply means matters regarded as involving the action or influence of supernatural or supernormal powers, or some secret knowledge of them. I will be analyzing Jennifer Kent's The Babadook and Jeremy Gillespie and Stephen Kostanski's The Void. While these films seem to have completely different narratives, both films deal with the occult and contain a reoccurring thematic catalyst for the evil that ensues. Let's first take a look at The Babadook. Amelia, a single mother, faces the challenges of raising her son on her own, while her son, Samuel, doesn't make things any easier for her. He's hyperactive, a social outcast in school, and believes in monsters.
It's not normal for a kid to carry on with this rubbish.
It's not rubbish, it's real!
Tired and fed up with Samuel's obsession with a monster called the Babadook,
Babadook, dook, dook.
Amelia unravels. As her struggles with Sam grow bigger, so does a paranormal presence within the house, and Amelia soon finds herself facing a supernatural force as well as her own past. In an interview with The Guardian's Paul McInnes about the film, Kent states, "I think where horror excels is when it becomes emotional and visceral. I wanted to talk about the need to face the darkness in ourselves and in our lives. That was the core idea for me. To take a woman who'd really run away from a terrible situation for many years and have to face it. The horror is really just a byproduct." In The Babadook, grief of a past trauma serves as a catalyst for the horrors that take place in the film. We come to find that Amelia's husband, Oscar, died while he was taking Amelia to the hospital to deliver Sam.
My dad's in the cemetery.
Years later, now that Samuel is old enough to be a little hellion, we can see that Amelia hasn't coped or fully come to terms with the loss of her husband. She keeps his stuff locked up in her basement, can't look at a picture of him without breaking down, and believes that avoiding talking about him means that she's moved on.
I have moved on.
While clearly she hasn't. She shows many symptoms of depression, and on top of that, she's left with a constant reminder of the day Oscar died. Her son.
I wished it was you, not him, that died.
I just want you to be happy.
I just want you to be happy.
She doesn't even celebrate Sam's birthday on its actual date, due to the accident. The birth of Samuel and death of Oscar are forever connected in her mind, and the daily reminder of the accident, combined with the hardships of being a single mother, accumulate into a brewing storm, eventually opening the door for evil. This is where the occult comes into play. The monster has its own physical form. However, it's very much a byproduct of Amelia's psyche. Robin Wood, in his book On the Horror Film, Collected Essays and Reviews, when talking about the return of the repressed, he mentions two simple theses introduced by Freud. One being, in a civilization founded on monogamy and the family, there will be an immense, hence very dangerous, surplus of sexual energy that will have to be repressed. The other thesis is, what is repressed must always struggle to return, in however disguised and distorted a form. The Babadook is a representation of Amelia's postponed grief for her husband. Its look even conforms to her husband's clothing. The book containing the Babadook story just happened to appear one night in their home, but it appeared while things with Samuel were growing worse, and her depression as well. As Samuel insists the Babadook is real, Amelia continues to deny that as a possibility, brushing her own hallucinations aside and trying to explain the happenings as due to her lack of sleep. She even goes as far as to ripping the book up and later burning it, but the book reappears, stitched back together and relaying the words, "The more you deny, the stronger I get." for Amelia becomes possessed after multiple attempts at keeping her grief out of sight and out of mind. Something worth noting, Amelia works in the dementia ward, dealing with patients who have no control over the loss of their memory. However, she chooses to forget the memory of her husband. It's only once she comes face to face with the reality that her husband is truly gone that she accepts her sorrows and learns to live with the trauma. This allows Amelia to invest and replace that hole in her heart with Samuel, disassociating him with the terrible accident and instead with a new beginning. Although accepting a loss doesn't mean forgetting it, it means learning to live with it, which in turn allows growth and opportunities to move on. While the Babadook is subject to many different interpretations relating to the paranormal occurrences throughout the film, like whether or not everything was just happening in Amelia's head, in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't matter. Amelia let the Babadook in, aka the grieving process, and Samuel had to witness firsthand his mom struggle and fight through that. The occult elements in the film fall more so in line with the influential powers being imposed on Amelia and the boy. But the supernatural elements do increasingly become physical. It's a subtle presence at first, but then grows with Amelia's descent into madness, which brings some doubt as to what's really happening on screen. The Void, on the other hand, showcases supernatural and mystical elements within the first 15 minutes of the film. This 2016 horror and sci-fi piece, directed by Jeremy Gillespie and Steven Kostanski, begins as a sheriff deputy named Carter rushes an injured and bloodied man to a local hospital that is running understaffed during its night shift. As the night grows longer, Carter and the rest of the staff and patients witness bizarre happenings unfold, and the hospital proves to be host to an ancient and malevolent power from a different dimension, the Void. Seeing as the film has an ensemble cast, we don't get to experience an intimate journey like Amelia goes through in The Babadook. However, the characters in the Void are dealing with their own personal traumas, which the omniscient power of the Void uses to deceive and turn the hospital's occupants against one another. All of this is caused by Dr. Powell. Grieving the loss of his daughter, he sought a way to resurrect her from the dead and conjured the powers of the Void to do so. But resurrection of the soul doesn't necessarily guarantee the same with the body, as these monsters prove.
We're in hell.
I'm simplifying the plot here, but what's important to know is that Dr. Powell and his followers are using the Void for godlike capabilities that cheat the very idea of death. And the motivating factor for all this chaos was grief for a loved one. Not only was grief the catalyst, but it's also the motivation for specific characters' actions. We find out that Sheriff Deputy Carter and his wife Allison, who works at the hospital, lost a child during birth. It's the reason why when a pregnant young patient starts going into labor during all the madness, Allison goes out of her way and into danger to grab medical supplies for her. Like Jennifer Kent said about her ambitions for the Babadook, wanting to talk about the need to face darkness in ourselves, the Void alters its environment and occupants' perceptions to face their inner turmoils or secrets. As terrible as this may seem, Carter secretly was glad his child never made it. And the unnamed father and son who fight their way to the hospital are revealed to have inner tension dealing with the death of the mother and newborn within the household. These characters' inner demons not only make their situation more trying and horrific, but the fact that these demons are forced out of repression cause conflict that feels ever so personal. Sometimes facing the truth can be terrifying, so we put up walls to protect ourselves from being hurt. The horror genre is good at stripping these walls down and bringing the truth to surface. You could either face your demons and overcome them, or let them continue to eat away at you. Repressing trauma or avoiding grief serves as great catalysts in many horror films, and it continues to do so because we've all gone through pain and misery, and revisiting those feelings is terrifying on its own. Even if it's not trauma inviting evil to manifest, we've all got feelings and secrets to hide, and repressing them might turn back to haunt us in the end. So basically what I'm saying is, everyone needs to get their shit together, or else you'll be dealing with paranormal activity.